Welcome to the Inside Integration Podcast. My name is Chris. I am joined, as always, by my partner, Jason.
What's up, everybody?
And today we are going to be on a subject of we were calling it professional acrimony in the first, which is just famous words that I don't know for big ass companies suing each other. 'Cause
Yeah, really. You
there's
know,
there's a couple of these in the news lately. There's a few, and a couple of acquisitions. Probably the biggest one is the whole Massimo situation and Harman Luxury and how I think everybody kind of knew that somebody was going to buy them, but I don't know if anybody really expected Harman to roll out
yeah,
and
like
grab them.
that. The who purchased them definitely was not on my bingo card. Definitely kind of a dark horse. It makes total sense.
Perfect sense, sure.
And that's probably why I'm not rich and famous and a business strategist for a major consumer electronics manufacturer like Samsung. I mean, you think about just talking about the opportunity to buy a brand like Sound United,
Right.
for lack of a better description, because that's not what they are anymore, right? Like it's a group of products, but a
Some
pretty
good names, some good
prestigious ones.
nameplates.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
little Bowers and Wilkins. You might have heard of that one. Or
Yeah,
Marantz,
maybe,
that's
right.
kind of a thing.
Nah.
You know?
Denon Morantz, right. Like, come on.
Yeah, just it's I mean, honest to God, in my custom install days, I was a diehard Denon guy. Back in the '04, '05, '06
Yeah,
kind of era, like
sure.
those products never did me wrong. So,
I mean,
um,
I'll go one step. Like that's right around the time when they started denoting CI in their model numbers, right? So like they started kind of getting on board here, and what was it like the 3805 CI
yeah,
was,
video transcoding, dude. Like, I
dude,
mean, that was an
totally,
expensive box. But even back then, I mean, that was a couple $1,000 AV receiver
yeah.
back then, which was pretty pretty tall dollars for, basic, "Hey, I'm just gonna do some component video switching," or maybe even,
Yep.
composite video switching back then when you think about,
Well,
what the
and
state of video was
and
for,
those
for a
were
lot
the
of
days.
customers.
Those were the days when you had your JVC, high definition VCR,
Oh, yeah, baby.
your S video out of that into your receiver, your Gen 1 Apple TV that had component video and the very first generation HDMI, right? Like that's you needed something like that. You needed a beast to, take all
Yeah.
those different signals and put them together. It made perfect sense.
Yeah, think about how to wire all that stuff up, but
Oh, oh,
I digress. Like what
sure.
could ever go wrong?
Right.
Every video connection needs 3 connections now. That's fine. It'll
Right.
be perfect.
Component
Nothing,
video,
nothing,
baby.
nothing could ever happen. But yeah, just to think that Denon and Marantz is owned by Samsung, right? Bowers and Wilkins, a premier premium audio brand, storied luxury brand
Sure.
owned by Samsung, and that's no knock on
Nope.
Samsung. It's just a kind of a hallmark or a bellwether for the state of things these days. Right?
Well,
It's
and
crazy.
it works. It works with the portfolio, right? Like you got Mark Levinson owned by Harman, right? Like you've got Revel owned by Harman. Like all these little different pieces. There's not a whole lot of independence left, man. Like we're you
Well,
know
how could you be a boutique manufacturer and seriously compete, right? Like you had like a cottage full of elves that are cranking out
well, not
loudspeakers
at
or,
this level,
whatever.
right? Like
No, certainly
it's
not.
it's one thing, Trinoff, right? Like that's obviously, but that's not an entry level product by any stretch,
No, that's a scientific instrument that's designed by French Aerospace.
right,
I mean, the
right.
microphone is a trident and has all of this, storied, like, marketing that's tied to the science and the engineering behind the products, like, yeah, you know, pretty rad.
Yeah,
Pretty cool,
absolutely,
you know?
absolutely.
Um,
But it is. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to crank these things out at this level, right? So now we've got we kind of have fewer players in the market now, right? Like you can get a Sony AVR, you can get a Yamaha AVR, right? Like that's another
sure.
Yamaha's kind of an independent brand, right? Like they're not owned
Yeah.
by Harman yet. They're
They dabble in the motorcycle, water sports, piano, this musical instrument vertical that's
right.
very obvious to everybody.
makes I mean, hey, it makes perfect sense to me that if your piano is a Yamaha and your street bike is a Yamaha, why wouldn't you buy a Yamaha AVR? Hey,
Um,
sure, right? It's
Perfect,
It all
absolutely.
works.
Yeah,
Um,
lots of power sounds great.
I mean, I think it says something, more to like, okay, these, AVRs are there's a tough road to a hoe here, right? Like there's less, now we're getting into this world where it's a sound bar and it's wireless speakers and that performance is pretty good, like that market segment is kind of going that way. And, you know, less of an AVR and you would see more, you're seeing less maybe entry level dedicated theaters than you would full blown tits out,
Oh, right.
processor, storm audio, all these other
Because
things, right?
who wants all that? I mean,
Yeah,
pardon me, but
sure.
and for your living room system, who wants all that shit, right? It doesn't it's not aligned with what people that have the means to afford these kinds of things
Yep.
wanna have visible in their room. Okay, there's some outliers, of course, but
Yep. Yep.
by and large, they're probably gonna be into more design-focused things. They're gonna be caring about their furniture,
Right.
light fixtures, all this other stuff that's going on in the
TV
house.
as flat as possible onto the
Exactly.
wall,
If
no
if the
credenza, just a flat, yeah, sure.
can do you have the wallpaper that rolls out and it's a video when I don't, or whatever they're asking for, right? Like some George Jetson future stuff, like
Stupid,
it doesn't exist.
stupid ass LG to release that video. Like, we're talking 5 years ago that video came out with the thing rolling up and then rolling back down. I had so many clients who got forwarded that and who saw it on LinkedIn or socials or whatever it was. Like it was a really
Right.
effective marketing campaign, but the goddamn thing doesn't exist yet. And I
Yeah,
had
rolling
more
OLED.
I had more clients and family members ask me about that than probably any other product ever, right? Like, and it's just not even a thing.
No,
Brilliant marketing, but come on now. Like,
no. They had that transparent OLED at CES this year.
and every
I
year
want to say
before that.
and they were using it kind of like as a shower curtain and like all these different design focused things. And I was just like, yeah, make me look like I'm super buff
Sure.
from the outside.
Right. To outside
Yeah,
observers in your
yeah, the outside
shower. Like, all
observers make
right.
me look like I'm just absolutely, just jack diesel bricked up, ready to go, you know.
I'll tell you,
And
I mean, it shows a cool use case. We're not even remotely there yet, but like think about a shower partition, right? Like if you have a shower partition and it's glass, if that glass was OLED and you could take a corner of that glass and show, the status of your home or your security camera and then, you'd be streaming a ball game at the same time or whatever and, like like yeah, that's amazing. We're nowhere fucking near that yet.
dude,
We're not at
my
that point.
ADD just starts to tingle when I think about that. It's like so many shiny things to look at. Wow. Oh my god. Oh man, I was spinning off into fantasy world right there when you were talking about that. I was like, oh my god, my brain would just be so happy. I'm
That's
unmedicated, so what are you gonna do?
honestly, like, I mean, that is the dream, right? Like you've
Yeah,
got
it
this thing in
is.
there. It shows you, on your shower wall or whatever it is. It's completely ubiquitous where it just you don't even know it's there until it lights up or whatever, right? And it's like, it's got
That's
your
still
track information for the music that you're listening to. It's got your security thing, right? Maybe it pops up a thing that your garage door open when you're in a shower. That's information that you might want, right? Like, and who knows what else?
you can taunt the FedEx driver or the Amazon delivery guy from your shower.
Right, right.
Watch the flowers, buddy. You
Yeah.
drove over the grass last time you were here. Make up some story.
I mean, let's face it. Anybody with this thing in their shower, that Amazon van isn't getting anywhere near the perimeter of of
Oh,
the
no.
compound. But
No. I
but
mean, you can
it
play
does,
you can play the wizard, or whatever. I mean,
sure.
if I had that kind of money, why wouldn't you? I'd have a bunch of weird, like, practical effects in my house where I could hide behind curtains and pull levers, like some weird
Hell yeah.
steampunk.
I would absolutely have all my outdoor speakers around just playing bird noises all day,
Oh
every
my
day.
god.
Like, why
So
not,
all the
right?
time. Yeah, middle of the night, there's birds.
Yeah. Coyotes, man. I would totally do that, right?
That'd
Like
be super fun.
cue the
That'd be super
coyote
fun.
sounds.
Oh man.
But back to the thing here. It is pretty amazing that we're seeing this kind of consolidation, right? And this whole Massimo thing, that everybody has kind of kept an eye on for a long time, and Sound United and all these brands that, it kind of shows that there's, we are really racing to the bottom, right? Like there's
Well, yeah, I think we're in the face of commoditization. It's just a fact of life. So as these bigger entities consume smaller brands to build it into their bigger thing, I think it's kind of inevitable. It becomes the game of Monopoly where you've got
I got all the
Uncle
properties,
Pennybags that has
right?
everything, and all of his friends are around him poor and destitute, and they owe him, everything. I mean, the game of Monopoly is kind of a moral parable, right? It was on kind of on
Yeah,
purpose, right? It's not intended to be like, "You look at me, I won." You Right? It's just kind of the reality of it. But it's funny to me when you think about just the financial aspect of it, like the dollar value associated with what this transaction looks like seems appallingly low.
yeah.
Three
Well, sure.
$350 million. Is that right?
It doesn't seem like a lot to me. I mean,
That does not seem like a lot, especially in a high margin category like audio,
mhm.
right? It just like what are we missing,
It's just
right?
boxes. The boxes are not flying off the shelves, right? Like the AVR, the wall of AVRs at your local Best Buy or Hi-Fi shop or whatever. It just
Doesn't
isn't there,
exist, right?
because
Yeah.
there's nowhere to put them, right? So in your typical installation these days, like you really don't have a spot underneath the TV to put the AVR and all your sources and stuff, right? Like that stuff's going to be in an adjacent room or somewhere around the corner
Or it
or
doesn't
whatever,
exist. You don't have that.
or it doesn't exist, or it's wireless rears
Yeah.
and a sound
Woo!
bar.
Yeah.
That's the problem. We're not. It's kind of a shame because what we're kind of trying to push, at least in custom, is like we're trying to push that experience. And sure, you can get a decent experience from, again, a sound bar and a wireless sub and wireless
'Cause it's
rears,
better than not having it, right?
because
It's
right, because it's
it
better than not.
where the bar is set, your perception of it is off, I think, right? I think just generally speaking, just where the bar is, if you had the ability to have all of those wonderful things in the room, of course, it would sound better.
Sure.
Is it appropriate for that space? Do you even want it in there? Do you need 120 decibels just sustained in your, dining room or
Can you
whatever?
get approval for that from the your live-in partner? Like, is
Or
that's
your
part of it
kids.
too, or your
Shit, yeah,
kids? What do they care?
yeah,
They're used to
maybe,
they
I mean,
watch something this big, you know?
yeah. Well, my kids were thrilled to get TVs, and they are nothing but sleep aids, in their rooms at this point. That's what they use them for, so
Yeah. Yeah, again, it's kind of a shame, but it definitely shows where this is all going. It's very much a race to the bottom unless we start really hammering these the experience and why that experience is so much better and how you can wedge that, you know, all in experience into something that's convenient very via wireless speaker or not wireless speakers, invisible speakers, and different things that match the aesthetic of the TV and that sort of thing.
right.
That's going to continue, man. That's going to be a tough trend to kind of buck. There's nothing better though than when you've got two neighbors, right? And neighbor number one has his TV with his sound bar or whatever that he got from Best Buy, and it's an Insignia or or whatever the house brand is, right? And then you come over to the other neighbor's house and there's built-in speakers, maybe some Atmos channels or whatever, and just wow, I'm really missing out, right?
Yeah,
Like
guy
that's
number one's like, "I'm poor."
no. Well, poor just doesn't know about it,
Oh,
like
poor or
there's
ignorant, it's a bad combination either way, but,
plenty of people out there feel like, I mean, if you go with a professional, that's, the professional's
you're
supposed to
not
make those
wrong.
recommendations. But
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Yeah, if you're doing it yourself and you don't know any better, then you are gonna buy those things that are accessible,
heck yeah.
right? And or, the guy in a blue shirt or whatever color tech guy is wearing at the retail establishment that you frequent.
Right.
It's either a blue shirt or a red shirt. You're hosed, right? You're at their kind of mercy and their experience, and a lot of times those are guys or kids that are still living in mom's basement that have
Yeah.
no concept of
They don't
what would be
understand it either.
appropriate
Right.
for homeownership, let alone what you're going to do to put a entertainment system in there. But yeah, it's crazy to think about. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I'd want to sue over.
Which
which
great transition. Holy
which is
shit.
just the absolutely hardest transition to the freeway I could think of. But
Hey,
to talk about all these mergers and acquisitions just had my mind reeling about. how to even function in the case where you've done wrong. Potentially, there's legal action against you. There's these giant corporations with thousands, literally thousands of people that are employed for them that are at loggerheads over, patent infringement, or we stole your idea and let's drag it out through court. I mean, we can name drop some names because it's all public record, but I mean, two little companies like Harman Luxury and Voxconn going to war with each other
Yeah.
is not
And
insignificant.
and if you're
And
and if you're a CI person, you may have not heard of Vox, but Vox is essentially every single thing on the mobile 12-volt side, right? Like they own just about everybody over
just
there.
about everybody that's not named Rockford
Right.
Fosgate.
Yeah. Essentially, you've got a couple of big players. Vox is the biggest one you've never heard of.
Right, they're
You
the
know,
they're the Dracula's Cape, right? Like everybody,
right,
all these different brands live in Dracula's Cape. They are Count Dracula of those brands, right?
right,
Like,
right.
you have no idea. And then on top of that, they're the folks, so
Mhm.
to own that many nameplates of the audio business, and then to have a brand like Klipsch under that umbrella. Again, not small players. I mean, these guys,
No,
Klipsch has their name on Formula One cars,
right,
right?
right.
Like they
Well,
sponsor
I think that's an
some
interesting.
stuff.
I think that's a very interesting thing, is because I think all these nameplates, at least to a certain degree, you see these things and you hear about them because your Volvo has a Bowers and Wilkins system in it,
Right.
or your Chevy has sound by Bose or whatever. I haven't been in a market for a car in a while. Like Toyota is all about a JBL system that's higher option level or whatever. But
Right,
like,
yeah, the Fords are working with Sony, right? Like,
yep,
that's the standard offering, and then you can step it up to get, whether it's Bang& Olufsen or,
right,
I think soon to be Macintosh
right.
based on, some
Yeah,
recent acquisitions by,
I
Bose
mean,
Corporation, right?
Mac is Jeep, right? Like, Jeep, when my wife was looking for cars, like there was an option to have a Macintosh system in the Jeep, and it was, had a little video thing in the head
Little
unit with the
little
with
blue lights,
it
come
was it
on,
was
dude.
super cool. I mean, it wasn't like a $7,500 option cool, but
No,
at the same time, that's a big part of it too, is
had the
like
Mac tax on it though, so there you
yeah,
go.
exactly. the you know, at the end of the day, it really is. I mean, I don't know how much engineering these companies are doing for car audio rather than, slapping their nameplate on some cardboard,
Eh,
some cardboard 6x9s, and calling it a package. But that's the nameplate is effective, right? Like, if you're gonna buy your McLaren, it's gonna have whatever premium audio offering is in it, and that's something that's attractive to people. So,
sure,
you
if
know,
and everybody wants something, let me one up it, let me get one better if I can, there are those people out there that do that, but, to think about how these people have to interact in a professional space, with all of those things over your head. Like, just for example, if you look at like Lutron versus Jay Geiger,
Lutron
right?
versus everyone.
Right. Well,
But
Lutron,
Geiger, that's a good one.
but we'll just use that one as an example. You talk about David versus Goliath in a sense of how relatively small a company like Jay Geiger is from a manufacturing standpoint versus a company like Lutron, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and like, how do they function at trade shows? How do you like, you're gonna be on an elevator in the same hotel with some of these people, like, they stole whatever, your intellectual property is, and I'm not exactly sure what I think it was over keypads or something like that, but there was some idea
It
that
was
you
some of
guys
the
are.
other ones. This was I believe that Geiger one was a shade one, and it was like I guess the Palladium shades were maybe a little bit too close to what Jay Geiger's open roll system was.
Oh, yeah, well, I saw a few listed there. What I mean, if you Google Lutron lawsuit,
It's a
there's a
it's a
few.
long set of results, dude.
There's a few, and it's all public record, so we're not here to besmirch, our friends over
Well,
at Lutron,
and I
but
get it.
it's wild,
I
right?
get a lot of it is because and again, we're not beholden to Lutron at all or anything else,
No.
but like you've got a large company with a lot of people in it who put in a lot of R&D time, and if your brand new keypads that come out are immediately very similar to what your quote unquote competitor comes out with not too long after, like, yeah, you kind of need to protect your IP,
Right.
right?
Well, and I think that's a beauty of Western civilization versus what they're doing in some other parts of the world where, plagiarism is often looked at as, a fond thing, right? But like in China, for example, there is no such thing as intellectual property. You can blatantly copy other people's ideas, market them kind of similarly, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. So,
Sure.
on the one hand, I think it's good that we work to protect ourselves against these things. But on the other hand, when you look at this Harman versus Harman versus Klipsch sort of lawsuit, it's over Bluetooth party speakers with light up rings and like you've seen at every quinceanera
Right.
ever.
Right. The quinceanera box.
Like,
Right.
and as soon as I say that, you know exactly what we're talking about, right? It's the boombox with the two light up woofers with lights that flash and
Right.
probably a karaoke function
Yeah.
because
You may
yes.
have seen it at Costco several times every
Oh,
week when you
yeah,
go, right?
and they're big and tall, or they're some of them have displays in them. Some of them actually have karaoke, like, machines built into them with, the screen so you can see the lyrics and all that good stuff. I mean, like,
Hey,
what point are we just like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we suing over things that seem fairly
well,
ubiquitous? Are you gonna sue all of Latin America as well as, Eastern Europe and China for creating these things? Where why are you suing them here? Is that the only place you can? I guess I'm trying to just
I mean,
understand kind of what the hurt
entirely
feelings are here.
possible, right? Like if that, if that lawsuit puts an end to them selling in this domestic market, then maybe you have to. I mean, I get it from one side is that you kind of have to look at it and say, okay, well, we worked really hard on this specific, one thing, and I don't know the details of the lawsuit, but
No, I don't either.
in my head, okay, well, they did that, and we made this breakthrough. We spent our engineering dollars to do it, and then they just kind of came in, changed the names around and copied our homework allegedly, right? Whatever. You kind of have to step in and put an end to that, right? Because
Sure.
that's your slippery slope, right? Like, okay, well, if we don't do it, then six other companies are going to do it, and then 40 companies in China are going to do the same exact thing. Let's put an end to it. But yeah, it's when you spend that much on being litigious, it's got to hurt the R&D part, right? Like
I would, yeah, I would think
it's
so.
a
And
finite bucket of money, you know?
yeah, well, I was thinking just about the personal impact of that, right? Like you have to deal with these people on a professional level, and then
Sure.
just kind of scale that down to the integrator level. How do you, as an integrator, navigate when you've got some dudes that you're bumping into across town that maybe are being cool, right? Let's just be honest, right? Like you've got different people at different strata in the game, and it's a competition, right? You're competing lots of times for the same clientele. And if you're successful at it, you got a few crews of guys. That level of customer, that line for the strata becomes pretty flat at a certain price point where, hey, it's all things are equal here, all bets are off, right?
Yeah.
How do you,
Well,
maybe they are doing something illegal, or maybe you'd run into something that's shisty with a builder that's antitrust or whatever the example might be.
well,
How do you
yeah.
function? How do you deal with that?
I
You
mean,
know?
I think every integrator has probably been on both sides of the situation where you submit your, you put some time in, you build a system, you design a system, you put in your proposal, you give it to the builder turns around and shops it to, three of your competition in the same market, and then each one of those three is like, yeah, I can match that price, I can match this price, I can match that price. Even if you hand them something that doesn't have any prices on it, which is, again, this is a pretty common thing. I've seen it on both coasts. It's
Yeah.
it's
Do you line item? Do
yeah,
you just budget scope
it's
dollars
certainly it's
T and
certainly a
E?
thing. And yeah, one of the ways to get around that is with a budgeted scope, right? And you keep all your design work on the other side, or you charge a retainer to design a system, and then hey, you can bid this to as many people as you want and do whatever you
Yeah.
want.
You paid for my time. Here's the system.
Yeah,
If you want us to do it, we'll roll that estimate cost out of, or the system planning cost out of the total cost of the
yeah,
build. That's
it's a tough thing.
pretty fair practice.
And there have certainly been times, especially with integrators who do, who do Lutron or who do lighting systems where, you submit your bid and it's got, you've gone through the labor, you've marked up the plans, you've figured out how many circuits there are, how many keypad locations. You hand that off, and now suddenly the electrician won the Lutron bid because he's a lot lower than you are on labor price, because he's got his guys in the house wiring outlets and bath fans and everything else anyway, right? So it's a tough thing to navigate, and it's something that is pretty pervasive in this industry. And I think the way you get around that, again, we sound like a broken record here, but you got to have those relationships, right? Like
Sure.
it's a lot harder for a builder to fuck you over when you've got a relationship, and
Well,
hey,
you would hope that it stands up, right? You hope that it's genuine, right?
you
Not
gotta,
something that you're imagining in your head. Because I
sure.
think a lot of that happens. You're like sales guy or different different guys like, oh no, I got that builder on lock, and then you see him across town with the other integrators
Right.
van in the driveway, and you
Sipping a
feel like
cappuccino, right?
you're getting cucked big time, you know? You're just sitting
Getting
there,
cucked.
just getting cucked big time, just like, "Wow, what I thought you were my guy. I thought, like, we had all this stuff on lock," and it's like, "No, man, this is a professional world, professional space," and I think everything we've talked about so far here kind of, you know, we'll just say lives in fairness land, right?
Mhm.
All things being equal, but, like, what do you do when how do you recognize when you're being treated, by some way that's unfair legally? Like, right? Or what is the
Right.
grounds to sue somebody over where you've got a leg to stand on? Is it fraud over a contract? Is it, like where does that live? And again, how do you continue to function in the world where your guys are going to the same distributor to pick up Samsung TVs as their
Right.
guys?
Right.
And, I mean, not for nothing. I mean, I've seen crews of guys, you know, have some pretty serious acrimony, some pretty serious fallout that's not real fun, right? Where nobody wants to go to an event if either of these guys are going to show up because it's going to be a problem,
Right.
So
Well, I mean, we don't, just to put a real fine point on it, we in the CI business, we don't sue anybody. Like that's really what it comes down to. We could,
yeah, you're not wrong about that.
I mean, we could be absolutely just completely dog walked on a project, and I mean, you hear it all the time, right? You've got to,
I got beat.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
gave it
you've
away.
you've got a client that you go through the process and you get all your your landmark payments or whatever, and it comes up to that last 10%, and the job is done.
Yeah,
And
customer holding out over
yeah, like
the
now,
blue tape or the hit
right.
list, right?
Right. Or, the change orders that you didn't get approved ahead of time, and, all of these other things that you don't have written records of, right? So cover your ass, kids. But, you know, that's,
Documentation.
yeah. And
It's a
like, and,
thing.
you're an integrator. Like, what are you supposed to do? Right. Like, you turn around, you put a mechanics lien on them. Like, that person, the people that we work for will sue us out of existence
Oh
without a
yeah,
second thought to
and
save a buck. And
that's so
that's what it
so
is,
true. Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
if you yeah, when does your spider sense start to tingle,
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're gonna
Oh,
get absolutely pooched?
You you
Like,
ever yeah, you ever walk into a job and it's like, "Wow, this guy is completely gonna fuck me in 8 months." And, has anybody ever been wrong about that spider sense? No, I don't think so.
I know I had one deal where I thought was certainly gonna go bad, and it wasn't because I thought the dude was a bad guy. I thought just, like, his lifestyle. I mean, Tampa, Florida, adult film people, just
Mhm.
we'll just leave it at those 2 comments, 2 qualifiers, and just
That's a
leave it
type.
there. I'm like,
Yep.
"This guy is absolutely gonna just burn our company to the ground," and, man, true to his word, he paid. It was in cash, but he paid, right? And you just kinda go, okay, I'm gonna drive for the next 6 hours now from where we're at on this weird little island in, South
I
Florida,
need a shower.
all the way back to Orlando with way more money than I'm gonna make this year in a car, in cash. I'm sure it's gonna go just fine.
Yeah, no problem. Sure, how
Should
do I
be
do
it
this?
should be no problem. The guy that's riding with me is big enough to actually, beat me and rip my arms off and beat me with the wet hands and
Right,
take the whole bit. So
right.
I hope he doesn't actually do that. So, I'm glad that that's not a thing that hopefully most integrators have to deal with these days.
That's
But
that's probably a pretty great feeling though, because the feeling that we always looked forward to as technicians was like, you finish the job and like the homeowner hands you that last 10% check, and it's a check for more money than you've ever seen in your life. But then you get to take that check
to your
back to the
boss,
office and like walk in like a conquering hero, like, we got paid. parade, right? Like
Right. Yeah. Everybody gets to eat pizza
yeah,
party.
it's it's kind of fun. That's fun. But yeah,
Yeah.
then you walk in with like the Breaking Bad, palette of cash, and it's a whole different it's a whole
Yeah.
different vibe. Like, is this we no don't bring any black lights anywhere near this pile of money. Like,
No. Does Mark take cash? I'm like, I think so. Here you go. Like,
sure.
okay. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Okay.
It's when you hand him like a written piece of paper with like the tip calculator on it, right?
Uh,
Like, oh, here you go, just sign right here, and it's
no,
20%,
I
25.
literally had one of those clipboard, those metal clipboards, like a job
Heck
clipboard
yeah,
that opens up. And
sure.
I was like, can I put the money like it wouldn't close? The money was too tall. So my work order box would not close. I was like, this is gonna be a problem. Because
You
I got a flop sweat immediately. You know, like
you
what
got
are you gonna
a
do?
you got a suspicious looking suitcase that I could put all this in to bring? I'll bring it back to you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, something with some white powdery
Yeah,
residual
maybe some
stuff on it.
coke residue on this thing.
Fine, that'd be less obtrusive than what I
Uh,
have to deal with right
this
now.
is this is a fun business. We deal with fun people. There's
Yeah, you know what,
yeah,
Dave? Wherever you're at, buddy, I hope you're having a good time. I hope that there's a beach and a boat around you somewhere, and you're living your best life. Because the last time I saw you in 2005, it looked like you were having a great time. I don't know if you can keep that kind of pace up for 20 years, pal, but
yeah. I'm
hats
I'm
off,
not
sir.
sure your heart can take that. That's a lot of hard living, boys.
Yeah. So I don't know how we got into this land, but that's what our podcast is all
Yeah,
about.
speaking of
It's
getting
trying to talk
sued, why don't you
about,
just say the
yeah.
guy's last name?
No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay,
I'm
good.
definitely not going to do that. I'll just call them out because there's a lot of Daves out there. Could be anybody.
It could be
You know.
anybody. It is absolutely a trip though. Like being in this business, and especially when you're swapping stories with, filthy casuals who aren't in this business, who have like,
Yeah. What'd you do today?
reputable
Oh, I,
jobs
I
like
was
hedge fund
built a cool
managers and stuff.
spreadsheet. Oh, what'd you do? Um, not that.
Yeah, I was wiring somebody's house. I had to move their AR-15 collection out of the way so I could snake a
Yeah.
wires. And yeah, all
Exactly.
the serial numbers were filed off. That's what we do.
Yeah, it's fine. He had a bunch of white robes in the closet. Was
And
no
we
big
keep
deal.
and we keep our mouths shut about it. Is
Oh yeah,
how we
exactly.
roll.
That's fine.
But anyway, I don't know how we got here, but hey, here
No,
we
that's
are.
what we do. It's what our podcast is about. So I don't know how you sum up kind of our thoughts and all this, but
Yeah, wrap up this disaster. Let's go. I want
we,
to hear
we
it.
we just talked about some things, and I think that's what our podcast is about. Maybe it's a little informative, maybe it's a little bit of opinion. Like we can't all be strategy where we're cutting the latest and greatest hot takes out of our we're not doing the Ted story, and all power to Ted. He's got a lot of the insight and both of the lawsuit details that I was looking for came from his website. So
I
again,
mean, when
hats
when
off to you,
there's
sir. Recognize a game when you see it, my friend.
when there's an industry lawsuit, that is as strategy is the first place I go because I know that guy's gonna have
He's gonna have the dirt. I
it's
don't know
gonna
how
have
he
an
does it.
entertaining story at the very least. So
Yeah, right on.
absolutely,
So if you
absolutely.
haven't heard of it, yeah, strategy.com. I'll let you guys figure out how to spell that, but
Yep.
it's always fun to look at that. But yeah, let us know in the comments. How do you deal with either professional or personal acrimony out there? What are your thoughts on the latest acquisitions, mergers, what have you? Whether it's Bose and Macintosh, whether it's Harman and the Sound United Massimo group, what that looks like. I mean, I still the whole thing with Massimo. That what did they buy that whole deal for? Like $1 billion, and they just
Yeah.
take like a 75% or 65%
Just that haircut.
off the top, and they're just like, yeah,
Gone.
you know what? The medical business pays pretty well, and
I will tell you, I did not, and maybe this is me just having blinders on, but I didn't realize Massimo was such a big thing. Like I knew about him from
massive.
from the
The
audio
shirts at
video
Target.
stuff, but yeah, no, that's yeah, yeah. Right around the same time, I was making that S design,
Yeah,
on my notebooks in school. But no, I went to the hospital with my kid, and like literally all these little things have this little Massimo tag on it, and it's all the sensors, all the whatever. So now I know it's a
now you
much
know.
larger world out there. Why that company would get into audio video, who, who knows? But
Bowers and Wilkins speakers are definitely good for your heart.
I mean, it doesn't really work with the vertical, but okay.
No, it's fine.
Um, but no, yeah, and hopefully, hopefully these are experiences and things that we talk about that you could identify with because
Right. Well, we can't identify with any of it, but we're still gonna talk about it because it's in the industry and we're grown ass men. And we needed something to talk about today. What are
yeah,
you gonna do?
just a couple of assholes spouting out on shit we don't know about, just like the
Exactly.
rest of America.
I have no details on this lawsuit. Let's talk about it.
This is us. Yeah.
I have a personal experience. I'll tell you a weird story and bada boom, bada bing. There you go. I did want to actually take 1 second though to thank everybody that listens to this podcast. We had some people show up at our events that had heard about the event through the podcast. So to anybody that did that, shout out to you. It's great to meet you guys. Gave away quite a few buffet badgers and not fit for badger consumption stickers at
Nice.
our events. So I want to make sure I let you know about that. Still have a little stack, but still have more to give away.
I
So if
I
you
have
see
been
me out there with a backpack, say, "Hey, do you have any of those stickers?" And I will hook you up.
my strategy is when we do a show or
Strategy.
when we see something, yeah, we need Ted to
Gotta
push
pay
our
Ted Green
stickers.
now.
That's right. But yeah, my strategy is whenever we do an event or whatever, everybody's got road cases of all the stuff that they ship around.
Oh, be
Slap those stickers all
just
over there. So
everywhere.
look for it at a road show near you.
You'll know.
You'll
Yeah,
see.
well, I'll keep my eye out. That like like the old Flintstones when you see Wilma looking out of the corner of her eye, like little. Yeah, that's what'll be happening.
Right. All right. Well, again, we can't thank you enough for joining us for this dumb therapy session that we do, and we'll talk to you next time.
Take care, everybody. Bye bye.